And then there was one. Dude,
Yeah.
It seems like every year, the same time goes faster when you get older, but it just seems like every year the pro motocross season, or even the super motocross season, goes by faster each and every year.
It does seem to be, man. They are doing a good job keeping it really action-packed in one of the two classes, oftentimes both of the classes. So there's always something to look forward to each weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And this weekend was no shortage of action once again. We saw Hayden Deegan win and clinch his first 250 Pro Motocross Championship.
Yeah, what a way to stamp it with that first moto win.
Yeah, I mean the whole day. I mean, really to be fastest of qualifying, to win the first moto by a huge margin, the podium speech after. I mean, the whole day was really just a beatdown from Hayden. Granted, the second moto, the pressure's off, the championship's over. I feel like at that point, you're just out there to kind of have some fun and maybe throw some whips. And he's looking forward to holding that number one plate up on the podium. Pretty much all Hayden Deegan dominating every minute.
It was. I like that brief moment we saw him being a human where he just kind of tipped over in a corner, but he had a big 17-second lead. So he was able to kind of just get up, brush himself off, and get back on the bike and continue what he's doing. It's just those cool glances to show like these guys are amazing, but they also do make small little mistakes. Nothing like Chase Texon. We'll get into that later. But it's just cool just see as a reminder that like as good as these guys are, they're still human. And I'm wondering if in that time frame his mind was just maybe somewhere else, just overly excited, like, oh, I'm gonna win this, and just a little whoop, wash out the front end. I like what Ricky Carmichael has gone on record to say many times is you win the championship on your bad days. And Deegan did a very good job of managing those bad days that he had, because the days that we consider bad would be another rider's like best finish. So he did a really good job of managing those days to make sure that they still came out with a very productive day in terms of points and finishes. And look at them wrapping up the championship round early. What up?
Yo, yo.
How you doing? Sweet. And we're back. Yeah. So brief little pause right there. We had some customers come in that we wanted to just help out and share with them what we're going to do on their suspension. But where did we leave off at?
We were talking about Hayden Deegan, but I think we've talked about him enough.
Yep.
I guess before we wrap up, congratulations to the 38, or to the new number one.
Yeah, just the whole Deegan fam. It's obvious you guys worked very good as a collective unit. So like just congrats to everybody. It's Hayden, obviously you're doing the work, but the people behind the scenes supporting you as well. Great job.
The race winner, Levi Kitchen, 3-1 on the day.
Awesome.
And we've talked about
Keeps getting better.
Yeah, he keeps getting better. And we were talking about in other JBI race recaps how Chance Hymas was kind of having the results that we thought Levi Kitchen would have coming into the season. And now Levi has shown up and shown out a couple different weekends. I think back to Spring Creek, 1-1 on the day, Unadilla last weekend. Now rolling into Budds Creek, goes out 3-1 on the day, snags another overall. I'm starting to think this dude is heading in the right direction, not only to SMX, but also 2025.
Yeah, I agree, man. It makes me wonder, midway through the season, was he just having that bad of race luck? I mean, he just consistently found himself in situations where it's just hard to get out of and get as good of a result as the other racers were getting. Because now it seems like he still is racing. He still has tough challenges, but he's not in these really hard positions that he has to try to get out of, such as a really poor start, just some mistakes like going down or anything like that. So it's really glad to see him catching his stride.
Definitely seems to be creating his luck with good starts.
Yeah.
Making his own luck.
How bad was that start, Moto 1?
Yeah, and he was this close into being tangled up with those riders. Luckily, he was further enough inside to where he was able to sneak around the first turn and, was pretty much off the races after that.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job holding off Chance, because Chance was riding phenomenal as well. And if I was a betting man when I was watching that moto, I thought Chance was going to get him. It just seemed like they kind of had a good yo-yo effect where he'd get up on Levi, be quite close, and maybe lose a couple bike lengths and get back up. And that was really impressive to me to see him hold him off and just take the win all the way down.
Yeah, and speaking of Chance Hymas, he had a strong bounce back after a gnarly crash at Unadilla. But I was just curious on how he's going to feel coming to this weekend. We saw the ankle injury out at Spring Creek, gnarly crash out at Washougal, and then a few weeks later, Unadilla. So I'm thinking this guy's beat up after a long Supercross and Pro Motocross season. He's got to be wearing on the body and the mental psyche a little bit. But he goes out there and snags another podium. So I'm just like, dude, this guy is he's tough as nails.
Yeah, he's shown that he is. His crash is what I thought would have happened to Shimoda when Shimoda broke his collarbone at Unadilla.
Right.
So yeah, you're right, man. And watching how much they had to muscle the bike around the track this weekend, if they really wanted to make up some time on riders, that's a hard place to be if you're injured. You don't have all that strength to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. The track was gnarly, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But yeah, it was super surprising to see Chance just go out there after a gnarly crash with 7-day turnaround, come out there and almost ride like nothing really even happened.
My favorite was watching RJ, second moto. It's just great to see him back in the mix with everybody. It was interesting to watch Deegan race his teammate and just take longer than what we think it would for him to get around him. And instead, RJ just catches both and passes both of them. It just goes to show you RJ's style of, oh, I caught you, get the fuck out of the way, I'm going around you now. Like, he's not going to wait. And I can't wait to see him go to 450s whenever that happens because he's not scared of anybody. And you can tell how much he's off the back of the bike just trying to get every ounce of power out of that Husky, that once you give him extra 200 cc's, oh man, that's going to be fun to watch him because he's going to bang bars with anybody.
I like what you said there about the 450 because he will be forced to move up in the Supercross championship, that is. Granted, he could pull a Joey Savacci and race the 250 class pro motocross, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think we'll probably see RJ Hampshire aboard of Rockstar Energy Husqvarna come 2026 in the 450 class. I like what you also said about his pass on Nick Romano and Hayden Deegan down Henry Hill. I mean, he just sent it. I mean, there's gnarly braking bumps, ruts, and all that. He's navigating all that, plus passing another rider, which we've talked about in other JBI race recaps. You have to go so much faster than the rider ahead of you to actually pass them. Because it's one thing to catch another rider, but it's also another thing to have the speed to catch them, but also pass them in the same section of track.
The fact that they're making up time going down that hill is just absurd to me and just shows how good of riders and athletes these people are. I think put anybody else out there, like even some of the best speed riders, and you can just see dudes going down that hill half the speed that they were going.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. That hill was chunked up, that's for sure. And I even think of the downhill section before the big gulp, which is the triple step up section that's in the middle of track. And yeah, the riders this weekend just did an incredible job navigating the track and the conditions too, because it rained on race day. Track ended up drying out quite a bit, but it also created for some gnarly braking bumps, acceleration bumps, and some long, deep, gnarly ruts.
You pointed out how dry some of the jump faces were getting, and it made me think of just suspension settings and tire selection and how challenging of a day that must have been to find the optimal setup that worked great everywhere on the track. I think regardless of the setup that you chose, there's going to be areas that the bike worked really well in, and then maybe some areas it wasn't quite ideal, which makes for fun racing and just shows you the challenges of racing professionally.
The word of the day probably would have been compromise. Hey, we can get you knobby tire working great here in the corners, but off the start, you're going to suffer compared to that scoop tire. We saw that with Hunter Lawrence, who we'll get to in a little bit. But also with suspension setup, you might want to go a little bit stiffer in some areas of the track where it's faster, but you also need to maybe even go a little bit softer because you're not charging as hard into the same sections because the ruts and the bumps got so gnarly and so big. So I think compromise is probably a good word to sum up the day for those riders.
Yeah, that's really well said. Who are some other 250 guys we can touch on before we go to the big boys? Tom Vial, another solid 2-3.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely getting very consistent. So this could be a great building year for him next year, but he has to get even, I feel like he has to improve quite a bit from where he is now because everybody else is going to improve come next year as well.
Let's presume that Hayden Deegan's in the class next year, reigning champion. He's going to want to defend his title. I would be sure as shit to bet that Levi Kitchen's going to be better than 2024. And, you know, for Tom Vial, this is a crazy stat that, you know, I thought of earlier before prepping the show, was Tom Vial hasn't won an overall this season. Which is crazy. Yeah. So he's won motos, but just hasn't won an overall. He's got one more opportunity to do it.
Because, dude, Chance Hymas is going to come back better next year.
Another guy, Joe Shimoda.
Julian Boehmer had a great race this weekend. That dude's not going to be slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah.
Shimoda will be back. Obviously, Ty Masterpool's got a ride with Kawasaki now.
Yep. And
likely he will only continue to get better. So it's exciting for us to watch. As a rider, I think, man, I got my work cut out for me if I want to be competitive in this class.
For sure. You're playing offense and defense at the same time.
I last just want to touch on, if Ken Roxon had raced a 250 class this weekend and got involved in that first turn pileup, that would have just been a huge bummer for Ken Roczen, Suzuki, all the team. I'm glad he's going to race the 250 class, but after seeing that pileup, it kind of made me reevaluate the gain they can get from it.
Yeah, I wonder what he thought watching that. It's like, oh, granted, first turn pileups could happen in either class, 250,
True.
450, depending on the track, but 250 guys are the younger generation of our sport, and they are known for going for it maybe a little bit more than the 450 guys who are more experienced, have learned the hard mistakes and the hard lessons that the 250 guys might not have learned yet. I'm not saying that's what caused the first turn pileup, just because at Budds Creek, it's pretty notorious. That first turn is pretty notorious for having first turn pileups. But then again, though, it's just like you're racing a whole nother crop or group of riders. You just don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, like a guy like Ken Roczen has so many race hours against a guy like Eli Tomac. He probably knows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But when he goes up against like a Hayden Deegan or a Levi Kitchen or a Tom Vial, Chance Hymas, I mean, the list goes on. He's probably thinking like, what is this dude next to me going to do? Not saying that they're dirty athletes, but then again, it's just you don't have that race time and logging those laps with the other athletes. So it's a big question mark, I think, for a guy like Ken Roczen, racing some of these other athletes.
Guess the big dogs now, the 450s.
Chase Texon, man, just 5th consecutive overall. Seems to just be doing it. Him and Hunter Lawrence seem to be swapping moto wins. Hunter Lawrence will go 1-2, Chase Texon 2-1. Obviously, the better second moto finish is the tiebreaker there. Chase has a 28-point lead heading into the finale at Ironman this weekend. He can cinch it up by literally just beating Hunter Lawrence in the first moto.
True.
They could not score any points and, Chase would have the title. They can go 18th, 19th, and Chase would still have the title. So it doesn't really matter where they finish, but as long as Chase beats Hunter, the math is that simple. If Hunter Lawrence were to win, he needs Chase to finish 3rd or worse for Hunter to stay alive in the title fight. Granted, it's still a long shot. 28 points with only 2 motos to go is quite large, but yeah, anything can happen in this sport, as we have seen. And for Chase Texon, I mean, way to go. He's one step closer to his first Pro Motocross Championship, and I think this is going to be a great first chapter in the book of Chase Texon and the Red Bull KTM marriage.
Yeah, dude, well said. He definitely didn't make it easy on himself with like the tip overs.
For sure.
Stuff that he had, and that's now becoming such a common topic that I think we can safely rule out as probably not the bike.
Yeah,
or
I
the
don't think
settings.
so.
It's just that dude is aggressive on that front end, getting that wheel traction, and so be it. It pays off when he doesn't wash the front end, because you pointed out how quickly he caught and passed Hunter Moto 2 on the outside, and it's just like, dude, where do you find the extra speed to do that?
Yeah. It's unreal, just not touching the brakes and hammering on the throttle, I guess. It sounds super simple, but it's so much harder. You think of, finding that lean angle traction, finding the right line, especially on a track that's so beat up. So for Chase Texon, just go around the outside like that is just, it's bananas.
Hunter Lawrence's bike looked phenomenal in Moto 1. That was one of the few times where I was watching somebody ride and I was like, wow. Sorry about that, guys. It really stood out to me that his bike looked really good. After you informed me about the tire selection, that seemed to really make a lot more sense in terms of good tire selection for Moto 1 and good suspension settings. Moto 2, it seemed like he had a lot of excess wheel spin. And the bike wasn't quite driving as forward, nearly as good as it should have. And that's going to make the shock not work as well also, because of that excessive wheel spin. You're going to have a lot higher RPMs that you're going to be hitting quickly, because the bike just goes zoom versus grabbing and driving. So it makes for a bike not feel as good. That same downhill that RJ is making up time on, man, Chase, Hunter, and Aaron were just attacking that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think Aaron Plessinger had a great drive down the hill before the big gulp and was side by side with Hunter Lawrence. I feel like he was a little too nice with Hunter Lawrence. I feel like he could have maybe gone a couple feet to his left,
right,
kind of shut down the line, but cool to see some, fair play between the two. Aaron, another great ride. He has now kind of separated himself from Justin Cooper because they were in an intense points chase battle for 3rd overall in the point standings. Obviously, Justin Cooper, that Moto 1 crash off the start, really put a hamper onto that. But for Aaron to go 3-3 on the day, notch another podium, great riding as well. I think for Aaron, he's pretty much solidified himself as the lone wolf for 3rd overall in the point standings.
Is this his best 450?
I would say so.
Yeah, it's got to be season.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would say so. Supercross and motocross finally got the monkey off his back with getting that Supercross win at San Diego this year. And then obviously just the consistency. He held the red plate in Supercross this year. Going into outdoors, we saw him notch a podium at Hangtown. Almost got that moto win. But yeah, he's right there. And I feel like he's got a lot of speed in the tank, more so than other years, along with the consistency as well.
Yeah, it was cool to see him hold off Eli Tomac in that first moto because Tomac got fourth. And I know it's his first race back, but it's Eli Tomac. So it's like, if he's there and he's feeling good, then you know he's going to be up front. And in the past, I think more often you would see Tomac get the best of Plessinger. So it was really cool to see Plessinger get the better of Tomac on that. Malcolm Stewart, man, he got a fourth overall. He went 6.5 for the day. I believe you said that is his tied for his second best finish.
Yeah, he tied his best finish.
Tied for, okay.
Yeah, which coincidentally was at Budds Creek all the way back in 2013.
Ooh, wow.
So it's been that long.
He's been racing for a while now. God, I forget that.
For sure. Mookie's got some miles on him.
He does.
That's for sure.
It's always fun watching him up front because when the dude's on, he is on. And James has been out of the sport long enough of not racing. I feel like there's no longer that, oh, that's not James, or it's not how James, it's just he's become his own person in the best of ways.
I think he's building up for a great 2025. Now, this is the last year of his Rockstar Energy Husqvarna contract heading into 2025. Who knows what he's going to do beyond 2025, but I feel like there's a chance that we might get that 2022, 2023 Malcolm Stewart in 2025. So I'm super excited to see that.
What do you think about Christian Craig, man? Awesome 6 overall finish, 7.8 for the day.
Definitely in the right direction. That's a guy who, I mean, we've seen him run up front. I think back to Geico Honda at Paula 2. I think it was, 2021 or something, and the dude was on fire. And yeah, I just think on the right day, Christian Craig is phenomenal. He has got really pretty style on the bike, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like, he's just super smooth, pretty elegant on the bike at times. And unfortunately, it seems like that elbow injury really derailed his whole 450 career trajectory. You know, since that elbow injury at Glendale in 2023, he's had multiple surgeries on it, and it's just been a nagging injury. Kind of sounds like he's on the backside of that now, where it's getting better and better at times. And, you know, unfortunately, he will no longer be with the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna team come 2025. He will have to find a new home. Where that is, I am totally clueless. We were speculating earlier, maybe Beta. I don't know if that's even in the talks or in the works at all, but I feel like Beta could be a suitable home. Sounds like HEP Suzuki is going to be tied up with some new athletes. Colt Nichols recently went over there. Another satellite team like a Club MX, a Firepower Honda, any of those teams might be a suitable home for a guy like Christian Craig, who's a former 250 Supercross champion.
He is, yeah. And you're spot on, man. I do think of that exact race as well. I just remember thinking, like, where's Christian Craig been? He's been leading this whole race. Like, what? Like, that kind of came out of nowhere. He's that good of a rider. When things click, he is one of the top guys. He looked very comfy on the Honda when he was back on the Honda during those days.
Well, I mean, it's almost that time at the end of the show where we do our predictions.
Yes.
Ironman, 250, and 450. Who you got?
Chance Hymas.
I like it.
For first place. How's he going to do it? Man, I don't know. Tom Vial for second overall, and Levi Kitchen for third.
Ooh.
Danger Boy maybe like a fourth overall, and just he's out there ripping, but I don't see him maybe pushing it or taking any additional chances necessary. And now he's racing with not necessarily stuff to lose, but nothing to gain. And everybody else he's racing against have everything to gain in terms of at least winning a moto out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what his approach and strategy is for this weekend. But I think based on the young guys, they really want to get that last moto win, and it's going to be a brawl between the three of them to get that.
For sure.
So, and mostly I'm being influenced by you and you talking about Tom Vial wanting to at least finish out with an overall. That was a really good point. So, yeah. Man. Hunter Lawrence from Moto 1. He's just too good at those first motos.
Yeah.
And Chase Sexton will be like third. I think he tips over.
Yeah, okay.
Or something. And then he wins the second moto.
Nice.
So he gets the overall. Lawrence will get second overall again. And for third, Eli Tomac.
I like it.
He's raced there before, and he's done good there before. So, yeah. Ken Roxon, man, that's going to be a hard one to place, where he's going to be in the 250 class.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. 250 class, I'm gonna go Levi Kitchen. I think he's just on a roll, and I think he's gonna ride some of that momentum from Unadilla, Budds Creek, all the way into Ironman. So I'm gonna put Levi Kitchen in the top spot. I'm gonna go Tom Vial second.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be right there, just come up a little bit short from that overall win, and I'll put Chance Hymas third.
I like it.
450 class, I'm gonna go Chase Sexton. He grew up not too far from there. He's an Illinois boy. Obviously, Ironman is in Indiana, so not too far. So I'm going to put Chase Sexton first. I'll go Hunter Lawrence second. And I'm going to follow you up with Eli Tomac in the 3 spot.
Okay, I like it. Some dark horses. Where do you think Masterpool will finish in the 250s for the last round?
Okay, wild card. I like it. I'm going to say 6th place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And for 450s, where do you think Dylan Ferrandis is going to finish? Because he kind of had an off weekend going down.
Yeah.
First moto, bounced back with a 7th, but he's been one of those dudes. Hard to know where he's going to finish.
I'll go 6th place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Phil Nicoletti, I believe it's your last race this weekend during a full-time schedule. Congrats on just a long, awesome career.
Yep.
It's been really fun watching you ride. It's been fun to get to know your personality on the videos that you do. And it seems like you have a very good just influence and you're well liked by the people around you. So congrats on a cool, awesome, just professional motocross career.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
And Evan Ferry, great job first moto. I don't know what happened, but it was really cool to see you up front and ripping as well as you were in that first moto. I hope you get some more good starts and you can finish that with a good finish as well.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the JBI Preview Show. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more shop talk, JBI race recap, or JBI spec videos. We will see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.